Welcome back, class. We're still in history 1302. We're in section 2, part 2, reconstruction. Now, one of the things I want to mention to you guys, when you go through the PowerPoint, you will see a lot of things about John Wilkes Booth. Remember, this is a 2-hour lecture that I'm having to divide into 4 little sections of 5 to 10 minutes a section. I'm just not going to have time. I do want you to go over that. So, well, the next thing we're going to talk about was who was Abraham Lincoln's predecessor. Now, it was a guy named Andrew Johnson. He's the 17th president. Had been a wartime president out of Tennessee. Guys, the thing to remember about Johnson was all the things Lincoln was not. Lincoln was a smart, elegant guy. He was an elegant speaker. He was just really a great wartime leader. Johnson is none of that. Johnson is stubborn. Johnson is the wrong guy in history for Reconstruction. Now, one of the things I always like to point out about Johnson was, and he's kind of an odd guy in history. They almost impeached him, by the way. The Radical Republicans. Now, the Radical Republicans were a offshoot of the Republican Party. I always kind of compare the Tea Party, but I mean, I'm not saying the Tea Party was this radical, but they were Republicans, but they were an offshoot. And the word radical says it all. They were a very radical group of people. They tried to impeach Johnson. Okay, they did not care for Johnson. And I always say one of the things I tell you about Johnson that was really odd is that Johnson hated the southern plantation owners. Now, before you say, well, he could have been a great guy there, Mr. Offer, he did not have a problem with these guys owning slaves. That was not why he hated them. He hated them because they had money and they were rich. He was perfectly okay with the slave system as it was set up and didn't have a problem with that. He just hated these guys that made a lot of money off of it, and he hated them individually. He will be our guy that will bring us into Reconstruction. During this period, you're going to have several things, guys. You're going to have the Black Code. The Black Code is a series of laws. You can see this on a test question. Basically, the Black Code would not permit African Americans. They could only work as house servants. They were forbidden from living in town, and they could not own any firearms. That was the Black Code. Now, the Black Code will be the predecessor of the Jim Crow laws. So the Jim Crow laws, as we know, guys, Jim Crow will go all the way up into the 1960s. So Reconstruction, we're still dealing with Reconstruction at this point. Now, one of the things I like to point out about this part of American history, this is very important, guys, is the fact that a lot of people, when you hear about the American Civil War, okay, the thought with most people is, okay, it was over slavery, the North won, the slaves were freed, no more problems. Guys, after the American Civil War, there's going to be more racial problems in the South. Guys like Johnson, Reconstruction, the Black Code would lead to Jim Crow laws. The South will have racial problems all the way up until 1960, up until guys like JFK and Lyndon B. Johnson become president. Guys, that's 100 years after the war. So, Civil War did not resolve racial problems in the United States, especially in the South. It's going to make them worse. So we will end this section. This is section 2, part 2. I should have said we're going to end this part. We come back, we're going to do part 3 of what will be a 4-part series. See you guys then.